Hi fellas, well, I did my PCR test, one of these tests where you put a little swab up your top of your nose and at the back of your throat, nearly making yourself sick. And it's all to do with COVID. Apparently you get a 180-day pass. I didn't really want to do it. I've got no confidence at all. These bloody silly masks even work, to be quite honest. And considering how mild Omicron is compared to the Delta, I don't really know why they're getting so worried. The worst symptoms seem to be fatigue, sometimes severe, sometimes mild, and a scratchy sore throat, cough, and a temperature. The death rate of it amongst Omicron apparently is thankfully low. As we know, it was published the other day, publicly, there were, I think it was 27,000 people who'd been fully vaccinated who had Omicron. Would you believe it? 27,000, was it 72? It was 27,000. So obviously it doesn't work that frigging well, does it? I'm one of the great number of people who've had non-COVID. I'm getting on. I'm 60. I've had non-COVID health conditions. It's very serious, potentially life-threatening or disabling conditions, and it's been completely ignored virtually for 18 months. I was supposed to go for special tests, CT scans, which I had to delay due to being too dangerous where I was living. That was the end of February. I left around about that time, and it took repeated. You just can't get through to the doctors. I mean, I've been in there. I've been in my local doctors, which I won't name, I suppose. Best not. And I've actually been in there a couple of times, trying to sort out messes of theirs. And honestly, the phones aren't ringing. They're permanently muted. We just don't bother answering them. There's a nice handy excuse for the police, for the warders, for the doctor's receptionists, for the middle class bloody doctors and nurses to be taking time off on full pay, on furlough. They don't give a crap. It's the poor people and the single parents and the disabled and all the couples that have been split up by this bloody plandemic. That's all it is. And I won't go out of my way to mention the chap I was talking to the other week called John, who was 62, a little bit older than me, who sadly had an 87-year-old father, fit as a fiddle. He was still working at 87. Would you believe that? My God, he must have been fit as a fiddle, really strong as an ox. And I had a couple of fine kids. He was a really good son. And sadly, he popped his clogs 4 or 5 days after having his booster. Yeah. 87-year-old, strapping 87-year-old, working away for good money, still at 87. But 4 or 5 days after having his booster, he kicked the bucket. Seriously. And this isn't fictitious. I mean, the son's name was John. And he lived, well, just near me. He was working away and he popped his clogs. I think it was 5 days after he had his booster. So I'm sure that would get took off for some kind of misinformation. But that's the fact of the matter. Strong as an ox, still working, worked all his life. So I didn't inquire exactly the details because, I didn't want to infringe on this man. He just buried his dad 2 days before. But he did die 5 days after having his COVID booster. So draw what conclusions you want from that. And it's strong as an ox, 87, working away. Must have been a lot fitter than me. And, hardly had a day off work even. So that's my COVID paraphernalia out the way. You put this little swab up your nose, right up the top of your nose, so it's uncomfortable, and chase it around, and then you wipe it around your tonsils 4 times each side. So much so it really makes you sick. But I'm sure it'll be negative again. When I finally got into hospital via an ambulance back in July, they were so obsessed that it had to be COVID related. They were hoping desperately it was COVID related because I'm 60 and I haven't been jabbed. And I was in the hospital 3 days, and 3 days insisted on doing a COVID test, PCR test. When it seems to go deeper up my nose with each consecutive test. So I thought she was going to push the bloody bud into my brain at one stage. But of course they're all negative. There's nothing to do with COVID. I've been waiting for medical attention for 20 months for a life-threatening condition, and like thousands of other people have been ignored. A couple of months back, I was filling with the car outside and I was talking to this nice old lady, a bit older than me, and she was telling me how her friend couldn't get through to the doctor. She was diabetic, she was in her 60s, and in the end, like I had last year, she had an ingrowing toenail, it got infected, and for lack of getting through to the doctors, the next call she made was for the paramedics, and she caught gangrene in her leg, and she died just because she couldn't get through to the doctors. She's this bloody COVID nonsense, honestly. And she lived literally, I think it was at the top of the street on the left. That's where she used to live. She was buried just a couple of months back. There you go. So should have 180-day. Shut up. 180-day COVID pass for this. I'm not planning to go nightclubbing. Lead a very quiet life since that bloody trollop and that first fucking arsehole Callum Doyle decided to get rid of me. I'm Dirty Marie, little gangbanger. How you doing, Marie? Still getting loads of coke for opening your legs, are you? Okay. See you. Bye bye.